Keanu noticed the old man the moment he walked into McDonald's. The crowd of people, absorbed in their own affairs, paid no attention to the elderly man who was struggling with the kiosk. Keanu himself couldn't understand what exactly made him stop. Perhaps it was the strange atmosphere where someone was struggling to do something simple, while everyone else ignored him as if it were none of their business. Or maybe it was just the feeling that he had to help. When Keanu approached, he saw the man, a black man, with trembling hands nervously trying to select food on the screen. The screen displayed an error, and the old man kept pressing the necessary buttons, but they didn't respond. In the old man's eyes, there was despair. He couldn't understand what was going wrong and felt lost in a world that wasn't easy for him. "What's the problem?" Keanu asked softly, standing next to him. The old man flinched slightly in surprise, looking up at the person who had addressed him. He seemed to not expect help, as though he had long learned to manage on his own, even if it was difficult. But there was something in that look that made him drop his guard. "I don't understand how this works," the old man said, trying to hide his embarrassment. "I can't select food. I can't even place an order." "Let me help," Keanu offered, lowering his voice so the old man wouldn't feel even more uncertain. He took the old man's hand and showed him how to use the screen properly. "You just need to press here." As Keanu began explaining, the old man relaxed slightly but still looked wary. He wasn't used to such technology, and despite the help being nearby, his own perception of the world was scarred, full of uncertainty and loneliness. "Thank you," the old man said when Keanu successfully completed the order. He shook his head as if all of this was a real miracle for him. "It's nothing," Keanu replied with a smile. "It shouldn't be that complicated." When the old man was about to leave, Keanu felt that he couldn't just let him go. Something in his eyes made him continue the conversation, as if this moment could be more than just helping with an order. "Hey, how about sitting down for a bit?" Keanu offered, pointing to the empty chair at his table. "I've recently realized how important it is for someone just to listen." The old man hesitated for a moment, but seeing the kind face in front of him, he agreed and sat down. They started talking, and Keanu felt that this wasn't just a random encounter. This old man, with his life full of losses and hardships, was part of something bigger. Keanu knew that sometimes it was more important not to solve the problem, but just to be there. So someone felt seen. After the old man sat down at the table, they remained quiet for a while. Keanu felt how important it was to give someone time to feel comfortable, but as the conversation lingered, he decided to break the silence. "How did you end up here at McDonald's?" he asked, trying not to ask too many direct questions, but understanding that the old man might need a chance to share his story. The old man paused for a moment, then looked at Keanu as if searching for words. His eyes were filled with memories and some heavy silence. "You know," he began, his voice quiet but steady. "For many years I worked in different places, cleaning, hauling boxes, on construction sites. Sometimes I was lucky, sometimes not. But there was always one thing. People didn't see me, especially because I'm black." Keanu moved a little closer, saying nothing, but his attention was fully on the old man. He could feel how hard it was for the old man to talk about this, how many times he had tried to forget these moments. "When I started working, I was always told I wasn't right for the job. And you know, when I went to interviews, I could always see their reaction. They'd tell me I had good experience, but I just wasn't a fit, or that the position was already taken." The old man sighed deeply and continued, as though finally deciding to share what he had carried inside for so many years. "You wouldn't believe it, but when I went to stores or just to places where people were, their gaze was always reserved, almost like I was invisible. No matter how hard I tried, there was always someone who thought I didn't deserve what they had." "That must have been tough," Keanu said softly, looking at the old man with sympathy. "You have no idea," the old man continued, raising his gaze. "It was hard to trust people. I never knew what exactly in my face scared them. Sometimes I felt like they didn't even try to understand me. They just saw the color of my skin, and that was enough for them to be sure I didn't belong in their world." Keanu remained silent for a while. He knew that this conversation was important and that the old man had just opened up to him about very personal things. Keanu understood that encountering racism wasn't just a matter of poor treatment, but a painful wound that was hard to heal. "But you didn't give up," Keanu said, trying to steer the conversation to a more positive direction, though not fooling himself, fully understanding the depth of the old man's struggles. "I didn't give up because I couldn't. I had to keep going because no one else was giving me a choice." The old man looked at Keanu and added, smiling faintly, "But you know, when I realized I could do more than just be who I was, that's when the change started. I began to believe in myself, even though the world didn't always believe in me." "That's a big achievement," Keanu said, nodding. "You managed to break through, and that's much more important than any success that might have come easily." The old man nodded, his gaze softening a bit. He picked up his coffee cup and took a sip, as if this moment meant more to him than just meeting a stranger. "Maybe so," he said, becoming thoughtful again, "but maybe I should have been noticeable from the start." After the old man shared his story, Keanu felt a heaviness in his heart. He couldn't just sit there and listen, knowing that the world around him was a place where many people didn't get justice just because of how they looked. This wasn't just the old man's personal tragedy, but a reflection of a society that allowed such things to happen. "I want to help you," Keanu said when they both silently finished their drinks. "Not just you, everyone who's faced being overlooked." The old man looked at Keanu in surprise, his eyes lighting up with hope, as if for the first time in a long while someone had offered him something more than just comforting words. "Do you have something in mind?" the old man asked, not believing that someone could really help him and others like him. "Yes," Keanu replied, his voice resolute. "I know people who can help. I want to create something like a program for those who want to work but can't find the opportunity because of how they look. I'll work with businesses and organizations, help them get jobs, give them a chance. We'll start with finding you a job, and then we'll keep moving forward." "Are you serious?" The old man was stunned. He clearly didn't expect his words to have such an effect on Keanu. "I never thought the world could be so cruel," Keanu said, standing and walking up to the old man. "But you've shown me that much more can be done. I can't just sit back and watch people suffer." The old man didn't know what to say. He felt that this moment was something more than just a random encounter in a cafe. He felt that his life could change. "You don't know how important this is for us," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "You might not understand, but for us, this is the chance we've all been waiting for." "And we'll work on it," Keanu answered firmly. "We'll start with your job. I know a couple of places that are looking for people, and they want honest and dedicated workers. After that, I'll keep looking for opportunities for others. You're not alone." Keanu took his phone out of his pocket and dialed the number of one of his old acquaintances, a restaurant owner in the city center who was always willing to help with such matters. He explained the project to him and asked if he could consider hiring the old man. A few minutes later, they agreed that the old man could start work in a week. When Keanu finished the conversation, he looked at the old man with a smile. "Everything will be fine. You start tomorrow," he said confidently. The old man felt relief wash over him again. All those years filled with doubt and despair seemed so far away, like they happened in another life. And now he had a chance he never dared to dream of. A few days after the old man started his job, he met Keanu again at the same McDonald's. His eyes were filled with pride. He was happy that he had finally become part of something bigger than just a person on the street. But this time his face wasn't as joyful as usual. "There's someone I want you to meet," the old man said, looking down. "Maybe you can help her the way you helped me." "Who is she?" Keanu asked, listening carefully. "Her name is Layla," the old man replied, pointing to a table in the corner where a girl sat. She was a teenager, about 15 years old, with dark eyes hiding pain, and a reserved gaze. She looked very shy, as if she was afraid of being rejected again. When Keanu approached her, the girl immediately raised her gaze but quickly lowered it, as if expecting to be turned away again. "Hi, Layla," Keanu said, sitting down opposite her. "I'm Keanu. The old man told me about you." Layla looked at him and her face softened slightly. She clearly wasn't used to someone approaching her with such respect. "I know it's not easy for you to find a job," Keanu continued, watching her reaction carefully. "You've tried looking for a side job, but they don't hire you because—" He paused, not wanting to say it directly. "Because you're not like everyone else." "I understand." Layla frowned, her lips slightly parted, as if she was about to say something but couldn't find the words. "You know, the world can sometimes be unfair. It can be cruel, and many people might not notice you just because of your appearance or the color of your skin," Keanu continued, sensing how hard it was for her to speak about this. "But that doesn't mean you don't deserve an opportunity. I want to help you." The girl looked up and met his gaze. A spark of hope flashed in her eyes, but also doubt. "But no one will hire me. I've tried. People say I don't fit." "I'll help you find a job," Keanu said, his voice firm and confident. "You can be part of something important. Believe in yourself." "But Layla started but fell silent again, unable to express her pain. "I know," Keanu replied. "I know how hard it is. But remember, everyone deserves to be noticed." Layla remained silent, and it seemed as though all her doubts were melting away. She saw the sincerity in Keanu's eyes, and perhaps deep down she felt that, for the first time, someone really believed in her. A week later, Keanu arranged a part-time job for her at one of the cafes involved in his program. She would be working as a waitress, but the main thing was not the job itself. The most important thing was that she had a chance she had long dreamed of. She would be noticed, and her work would be appreciated. Layla was starting her first day at work. She tried to hide her nervousness as her steps were accompanied by a slight trembling. This was her first real test at work, not just learning new responsibilities, but also dealing with the fact that her presence in the cafe, surrounded by people, was not welcomed by everyone. The cafe was filled with visitors. Some were laughing loudly at their tables, others were discussing the latest news with interest, while some were lost in their own thoughts. Layla quickly learned to keep her eyes level and not get caught up in the conversations she couldn't hear. Her task was simple: pour coffee, deliver orders, stay attentive. Everything was going smoothly until he entered, the man in the expensive suit, walking with confidence as though he had come here not just to eat, but to control the entire process. Layla noticed him as soon as he entered. He was alone, but his presence was so powerful that it felt as though all attention was immediately focused on him. He walked to the table by the window and sat down without looking around. Layla felt her heart start to beat faster. He looked as though he was ready to test everyone who crossed his path. A few minutes later, Layla approached his table with a menu in hand, trying to remain calm. However, her hand was trembling, and she almost dropped the menu. The man raised his gaze, and that was the first sign that he wasn't going to make this easy. "What are you doing here?" His voice was cold as ice, and in his eyes was a disrespect bordering on contempt. Layla froze. She was used to looks that weren't always friendly, but words like these, feelings coming from him, shook her to the core. "Excuse me, I'm here to help you choose food." Her voice was quiet but confident, despite her trembling fingers. The man looked at her again, and his gaze seemed to pierce straight into her soul. He curled his lips into a contemptuous smile and said, Are you seriously thinking you can work here? You don't belong in this cafe." Layla felt her face burn with shame. Every one of his words felt like a blow. Every glance was a reminder that she didn't deserve to be there. It wasn't just a rejection of her as an employee. It was a rejection of her existence in that place, in that society. She tried to hold back tears, but his words stayed in her mind like sharp stones. In that moment, as Layla stood in confusion, her gaze shot to the door. And just like in a movie, at the perfect moment, Keanu appeared. He had noticed the situation from the other end of the room, and without wasting any time, walked up to their table. "Excuse me, sir," he said calmly but firmly, looking at the man sitting at the table. "Everyone here is equal. You can't treat our employees like that." The man turned to Keanu, his expression immediately changing. He hadn't expected anyone to stand up for the girl, to dare to intervene in his cruelty. "And what? You're going to tell me what to do too?" he asked with a smile, but his voice carried a threat. "Yes, I will," Keanu replied. "If your behavior continues, I will ask you to leave." It was like a slap in the face to the man, and his smile vanished. He didn't know what to do, but he realized his attempts to humiliate the girl had not gone the way he expected. The man eventually got up from the table. He threw one last contemptuous glance at Layla, but didn't say a word. And though he wasn't kicked out of the cafe with loud words, his silent defeat was far more humiliating than any confrontation. He left without looking back. Layla stood there, unable to believe that the situation was over. She felt her breath steady, the pressure she had been feeling easing. But at the same time, she felt immense gratitude that Keanu had been there with her in that moment. When the man left, Keanu approached Layla. He placed his hand on her shoulder and said with a warm smile, "You did great, Layla. You didn't let him win. That's important." "I couldn't say anything," Layla said, feeling tears well up in her eyes. "He said so much. I thought I wouldn't be able to work here." "You're working here because you deserve to. You're stronger than you think." Layla looked at him, and a spark of hope lit up in her eyes. She felt that her presence in this cafe was not just a coincidence, and that she was there not out of someone else's mercy, but because she deserved to be part of something important. After the incident, the cafe manager approached Layla. He expressed his gratitude for her composure and promised that if a similar situation happened again, they would take action. "You proved today that you're not afraid to stand up for yourself," he said. Layla felt her confidence gradually returning. It wasn't just a return to work, it was a return to a world where she wasn't ignored, where she was valued. A few days after the incident at the cafe, Keanu decided to visit the old man. He felt that he should check in to make sure everything was okay and help him solve any problems that might have arisen after the old man started working and integrating into society. When Keanu arrived at the old man's house, he greeted him at the door with a smile. His face still carried confidence, but there was something in his eyes that suggested things weren't as simple as they seemed. "Hi, Keanu," the old man said, opening the door. "How are you?" "I'm good," Keanu replied as he stepped inside. "How about you? How's work?" "It's going well, but there's something I need to talk about," the old man said, sighing. His voice became more serious. "What's going on?" Keanu asked, sitting across from him. He noticed the man seemed troubled. "I'm having some problems," the old man said, sighing again. "My neighbor, the one who lives across from me, has started acting strange. He's been threatening to call the police if I don't leave." "But why?" Keanu asked, surprised. "You've always been a good neighbor. I don't see why he should act like this." "He just can't stand that I'm black," the old man said, his disappointment clear. "He started saying that he didn't like the way I look, that I shouldn't be here. He threatened that if I don't leave, he'll call the police. But that's not all." "What else?" Keanu asked, sensing that the situation was more serious than he had realized. "He said that if I don't leave, he'll burn my house down. He even said he'd set it on fire at night so I wouldn't have anywhere to go back to. What? Keanu said, outraged. His heart tightened with anger. How can he say something like that? I tried talking to him, explaining that I don't want any trouble, but he just laughed and kept threatening me. I don't know what to do, Keanu. You're not alone in this, Keanu replied, his face becoming serious. You shouldn't be afraid of this man. We'll find a solution. I don't want conflict, Keanu, the old man said, his voice soft but tired. I've already had enough of everything. I don't want it to end badly. But what if he really does this? He can't do this, Keanu said, standing up. He can't threaten the lives and safety of others, and I won't let him do that. Don't get involved, please. I don't want you to get into trouble because of me. The old man tried to stop him. You deserve to live in peace. I will help you. We'll find a solution, Keanu said, confidently heading toward the door. I'll talk to him. When Keanu approached the neighbor's house, he immediately felt the tension in the air. The house stood off to the side with no visible movement from the windows, but Keanu knew that he was about to have a serious conversation. He knocked on the door. The man opened the door with contempt on his face. What do you want? The neighbor asked, his eyes cold and full of dissatisfaction. I want to talk to you about your attitude toward my friend, Keanu said, not hiding his resolve. He hasn't broken any laws, and he has the right to live in this house. Your threats are unacceptable. The neighbor looked at Keanu, and his face instantly became more tense. I don't want people like him living next to me, the neighbor replied, his voice becoming rough. I don't think people like him should be part of our neighborhood. You can't say that. Your views are your personal problem, but you don't have the right to threaten people because of their appearance or skin color, Keanu said, not looking away. If you continue to threaten him, I'll have to report this to the authorities. He can leave if he doesn't like it, the neighbor tried to justify himself, but his words sounded less confident. I'm tired of seeing people like him here. If he doesn't leave, I'll do what I said. You won't dare, Keanu replied firmly, feeling his anger rise. You don't have the right to ruin this man's life. I warn you, if you do anything, I'll take all necessary measures. The neighbor continued standing, but his confidence began to fade. You don't understand, He stopped as though realizing he had already gone too far. I understand you, but don't threaten him anymore. Otherwise, the consequences will be serious, Keanu said, leaving. When Keanu returned to the old man's house, he felt a sense of relief. Although the situation wasn't fully resolved, he knew he had done everything he could to protect him from the threats. I talked to him, Keanu said. He won't threaten you anymore. But know that if he starts again, I'll help you get back on your feet and protect your rights. Thank you, Keanu, the old man said, his eyes filled with gratitude. I don't know what I would have done without you. You're not alone in this. And remember, if any problems arise, I'm always here, Keanu replied, smiling. Keanu continued helping the old man and Layla, supporting them during tough times. He organized a meeting with a business owner for his friend, helping him get a job. Layla continued working confidently at the cafe, and the old man lived in peace, no longer afraid of the neighbors' threats. One day, sitting with Layla at the cafe, Keanu said, "You're strong. You did everything yourself." "You showed me that anything is possible," she replied, smiling. Realizing that he had done all he could, Keanu understood an important thing. To change the world, it's enough to help just one person. And when one person believes in themselves, they can change everything around them. You deserve a second chance, Keanu said. And though everything around him continued to change, he knew, helping people, that was what mattered.